My hands still smell like rust and salt no matter how hard I scrub. It's in the lines of my knuckles, under the nails, like the ocean branded me and decided it owns me now. I'm typing this on a laptop that keeps sticking because there's dried blood in the hinge. Sleazy little motel in Kodiak, Alaska, one of those places that charges by the week and never quite dries out. The carpet's damp. The air conditioner coughs brine. When the wind gusts off the harbor, the window rattles like it wants to pop and let the sea in. Maria's asleep on the bed closest to the wall. I'm on the other one, hunched over, back against a headboard that's been gouged up by 100 bored drunks. She's sleeping like she didn't spend the last day leaking. Her olive skin, pretty, always looked like she just stepped off a boat in the Mediterranean, is marred by these ugly, crooked gashes. The blood-dried dark around them, that shiny brown red that looks like lacquer when it sets. You can tell which ones were deep because the edges pulled apart and stayed that way, like the cuts are still surprised they happened. No hospital for her. No hospital for me. That's not some macho choice. It's policy. Company policy doesn't care if you're bleeding out or coughing up seawater. Company policy cares about containment, paperwork, and whether the wrong person starts asking the wrong question about why an investigator and his partner came back from a routine site visit with claw marks and salt burns down to the muscle. I should keep my mouth shut. I should do what I'm told, sign the forms, let the response team handle it. I know the script. I've been reading it for 2 decades, but I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it again. This slow, patient knocking from the other side of steel, like something outside a hull, tapping with the calm confidence of something that knows the hull is temporary. So I'm writing. I'm putting it somewhere my brother's people will have to work to bury. Let me clear a few details about myself first, because I get pissed off when people are vague, and I'm not going to do that to you while my hands are shaking and my partner's bleeding through motel sheets. I am Clark Evarts, investigator, detective, if you want to be dramatic about it. I work for a private consulting agency I'm not going to name because even typing the letters feels like signing my own death warrant. They pulled me in young. I'll be 34 this year, which should tell you how that math works out. They found me when I was still half a kid and decided my brain was useful. You don't get to say no to people who already know your social, your grades, your debts, and what you did behind the boathouse when you were 17. I'm based out of the Seattle branch now, but Maine is home, always has been. Cold water, rock coast, fog so thick you feel it on your teeth. I trust Atlantic fog more than I trust the bright, clean air out west. Fog at least admits it's hiding things. Maria Engel, my intern, my partner, whatever title makes the paperwork easier, came on recently and somehow managed to make herself indispensable in under a month. Swiss, tan skin like she keeps a secret son in her pocket. Perfect black hair, she wears like she's daring you to comment. Eyes so blue they look fake until you realize they're real and you're the one who's wrong. She's sweet, too, which drives me insane because I'm not sweet and I don't understand people who stay soft in hard jobs. She's also weird as hell. She's got this forensic mind that runs circles around most of the lab techs the company keeps on contract, but she does things that make my stomach flip. I don't care if you graduated some top Swiss university at 16 and spent your early 20s doing biophysics and field forensics in places where the rain never stops. Licking evidence does not sit right with me. Blood, rust flakes, black slime off a pipe. She'll put it on her tongue like she's tasting wine. And before you say it, yes, I've yelled at her about it. I've snapped so hard I've seen her blink, and she still just gives me the calm look like I'm the one acting strange. The fucked up part? She never gets sick. Never. Not once. Not even when she should. That's how you end up keeping a secret you don't want to keep. You look away, you make sure no one's watching, and you let her do her little ritual because the agency isn't on the government's good side, and the agency doesn't protect you if you cause problems. They protect assets. People are not assets unless someone rich says they are. We got assigned a case 3 days ago. Or rather, I got assigned. Maria's not cleared for solo yet. Not because she can't do it, but because the company likes leverage. Keep the smart ones attached to someone they can threaten. The job came in through a client who didn't say please. He said, "I'm paying for closure." That kind of money buys your tone. He was concerned about a death. Man found brutalized in the water off a private operation. Yeah, sure, but what he was really frantic about was the disappearance of wildlife. Not deer or elk like some asshole rancher. Marine stock, fish, seals, birds, the stuff he bragged about at parties. He had acres and acres of leased ocean, and lately it looked empty. No porpoises rolling at dusk. No gulls screaming over the wake. Nets coming up light. Something wrong in his water. His name was Joel Whitfield. If you're imagining a guy in oilskins with a weathered face and honest hands, stop. Whitfield money doesn't smell like fish. It smells like cologne and satellite bandwidth. The Whitfields didn't fish. They owned a spread of operations that included a salmon farm tucked into a protected cove on the edge of the Shelikof Strait, support barges, a couple of research modules bolted under a service platform. And this is the part that mattered to my agency. A decommissioned listening relay from back when the Navy liked pretending it wasn't listening. The company loves two things: rich clients and old military infrastructure. Put them together and you can hear the executives purr. Getting to Kodiak was easy enough. Flying to Anchorage, connect down. Alaska Airlines, recycled air, everyone looking tired and braced like they live with storms inside them. Maria and I had a quick rendezvous in Anchorage because she likes to pretend she's not human until she gets me alone, and then she's all heat and teeth and soft sighs like she's reminding herself she's alive. I'm not proud of that part. It makes you sloppy. It also makes you think you're still normal, which is a lie you cling to when your job is staring at blood patterns and pretending the ocean can be controlled. We checked into the motel in Kodiak because the Whitfield guest house was too clean. Too many cameras. I'd rather sleep in a place that already looks ruined. Less effort to hide new damage. Maria didn't complain. She never does. That's another thing that makes me want to shake her. Anyone with her education and her face could be doing something else. Something safer. She looks at bad places like they're just places, and it scares me more than if she flinched. The next morning, we went down to the harbor to meet Whitfield's transport. It was cold in that specific coastal way where the air is wet enough to crawl under your collar and stay there. Diesel fumes hung low over the docks. The water was black and flat, like someone had poured ink and forgotten to stir. And it was quiet. Harbors are never quiet. Even when people are asleep, the birds make noise. The rigging clinks. 100 little sounds. Here, there was just the slap of water against pilings and, way out, this faint metallic pinging that made my teeth ache. Maria noticed it too. I saw her tilt her head like a dog hearing a whistle. "What?" I asked. She shrugged, eyes on the water. "Nothing," she said, but she didn't mean it. Whitfield's boat was a fast cabin cruiser, the kind rich people use to cosplay as rugged. 2 deckhands in matching jackets, polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Company guys, the kind who know how to say sir, while also letting you know you're being watched. We loaded our gear, dry suits, regulators, evidence kits, cameras, a portable hydrophone, because I'm not an idiot, and we headed out. The ride should have been full of life. Even in winter, you see something. A blow in the distance. A gull trailing you for scraps. The flash of a seal's head. We saw nothing. Just gray water, gray sky, and that damned pinging, faint, steady like a heartbeat made of metal. Maria leaned close so the wind wouldn't steal her words. "Clark," she said, soft. "I haven't seen any birds." "Look harder." I snapped automatically because that's my reflex. Push back, deny, keep control. But my stomach was already tight. No birds means no fish near the surface. No fish means something's off, or something bigger is eating. She didn't argue. That was different. Usually she'll take my anger and fold it into something sharp and logical and hand it back. This time she just stared at the wake like she expected something to rise and show teeth. After an hour, the Whitfield operation came into view. A low, ugly service platform anchored near a rocky island, with a floating complex of pins and walkways tucked into a cove. From a distance, it looked like a spider sitting on the water, legs spread wide. Up close, it looked worse. The platform had that familiar industrial sickness, rust trails like dried blood, barnacles crusted thick on anything that touched the sea, pipes sweating condensation even though the air was cold. A pair of big intake tubes disappeared into the water, sucking in seawater for whatever systems Whitfield ran below. Under the platform, shadows moved where shadows shouldn't move. It was probably kelp. Probably. We docked. The deck under my boots vibrated faintly, like the whole structure was humming to itself. That pinging got louder here, not from the air, but through the soles of my feet. It felt like someone tapping a spoon against a glass inside my bones. Joel Whitfield was waiting on the main deck in a clean jacket that didn't belong out here. Tall, smiley, late 50s, maybe, red hair on his jaw like he'd grown it in a hurry and forgot to finish. He looked like a man who slept indoors and got angry when his Wi-Fi dropped. He hates smiley men. Smiley men always think they can talk their way out of consequences. Maria hopped up first, flashed her credentials, and did that disarming thing she does where she smiles like she's glad to see you even if you're the one who called her into your nightmare. "Hello," she said. "I'm Maria Engel, and this is my supervisor, Clark Edwards. We were assigned from," she didn't say the name out loud, just held up the badge with the logo covered by her thumb, "to help you with the incident on your property." Whitfield's eyes did that little flick down and up. He was checking her. Men always do. Then he smiled wider, because of course he did. "Nice to meet you, Maria." "Clark." He held out a hand. His grip was dry and firm. "No cayuses. My folks are inside the module, and some of my relatives are around. You probably saw the support barge on your way in. Would you like to come inside? Warm up. It's a decent day," I said, even though it wasn't. Shame to waste it sitting in a prefab office. Debriefings take forever, and I'd rather see what we're dealing with. "You seem pretty calm for someone who found a body." His smile didn't slip, but something behind it tightened. I dragged things out. Ask anyone in my family." He led us across a graded walkway. The sea hissed through the gaps. Every few steps, water dripped from overhead pipes in slow, deliberate drops. Drip, drip, like the platform was counting time. We passed a hatch marked with faded stenciling, old military code, not Whitfield's. The edges were newer than the rest, like someone had been in and out recently. I clocked it. Maria clocked it. She always does. The office was a glass-walled module bolted to the platform. Inside smelled like coffee, bleach, and that faint sweet rut you get in places that fight mold and lose. A couple of Whitfield relatives hovered, too curious, too eager. People with money love drama, as long as it's not theirs. Whitfield waved them away and guided us back outside to a section of deck overlooking the cove. The pins bobbed gently, empty-looking. No fish broke the surface. No birds perched on the rails. Even the seaweed along the rocks looked thin, like something had been scraping it off. "Real quick," I said, because I didn't come here to sip coffee with rich people. "Basic details. You found a dead man, correct?" "Yes," Whitfield said. "I was out with my father early. We were checking the perimeter, nets, moorings, making sure nobody had cut anything. We've had issues." He cleared his throat like he was forcing himself not to sound afraid. Then we smelled it. You know that smell. Death in salt water. It's worse than on land. It sticks in your sinuses. Makes you taste metal. He wasn't wrong. Salt preserves just enough to make the rot slower, more patient. Like the ocean likes its meals aged. And he was there, Whitfield continued, caught up near the intake structure. Poor bastard. I didn't recognize him at all. His face, he made a quick fist and opened it like he was crushing something, bashed in, like he'd been slammed against the steel. And there were cuts. Not clean knife cuts. More like he hesitated, eyes flicking to Maria like he wanted her to make it scientific. Like he'd been dragged through something sharp. "Tom," I said, "when did you find him?" 7:45. Roughly. The tide was low. We could get close without getting soaked. Is he still there? Whitfield nodded. Yes. I stared at him for a beat, waiting for the normal next sentence. He didn't give it. Why didn't you call the Coast Guard? I asked. His smile came back like a reflex, but now it looked wrong, like a mask that didn't fit. There's more to that, he said. My first thought was my nephew. My nephew works for your agency, doesn't he? Thought I'd give him a little excitement. He loves this stuff. Maria's pen paused. My stomach dipped. Your nephew? I repeated. Philip Bliss, Whitfield said brightly, like he'd just named a puppy. His father John's who I texted. Figure he'd tag along. Good family bonding, right? Oh, really? I said, and I kept my voice flat with effort. Phil's a dive medic, not an investigator. If the man you found was alive, Phil would be useful. If he's dead, this is evidence and liability, and you should have called the authorities. Whitfield's smile hardened. Authorities around here are useless. Where is the body located? I cut in before he could start some rich guy rant about government incompetence. And don't say near the water. We're all near the water. He flinched, then gestured toward the intake tubes. Down there, in the service channel, there's a maintenance route. You can only get to it safely by skiff at low tide or by going down through the access hatch and walking the lower catwalk. It's not pleasant. Maria's eyes went to the intake. I saw her jaw tighten, like she was already tasting what we were going to see. Take us, I said. Whitfield swallowed. Now, Maria said softly, and it wasn't sweet this time. It was the tone she uses when she's done playing polite. Whitfield hesitated long enough for me to get angrier, then nodded sharply like he decided to stop fighting gravity. He led us to a small aluminum skiff tied off on the lee side. A deckhand started to climb in to drive. No, I said. I drive. The deckhand blinked. Whitfield opened his mouth. I know how to handle a boat, I said. And I don't take chances with people I just met. You can give directions. That's all you need to do. Whitfield's jaw worked. For a second, I thought he'd pull rank with money. Then he forced a laugh that sounded like it hurt. Sure, he said. Whatever makes you comfortable. Comfortable. Funny word for what was waiting under that platform. We got into the skiff. The aluminum was cold through my gloves. The motor started with a cough, then settled into a steady growl. As soon as we slipped into the shadow under the platform, the air changed. The smell hit first, brine and rot, and something oily like hydraulic fluid. The pinging was louder under here, bouncing off steel. It wasn't random. It came in pairs. Ping, ping. Pause. Ping, ping. Like a question asked over and over. Whitfield started talking, voice raised over the motor. You go along this side, past the second support. Watch the current it pulls. Then there's a ladder and a catwalk. The body's wedged near the grate. Wait, Maria said, and she tapped my shoulder. She pointed at the water. For a second, I saw nothing. Then I saw it. A smear on the surface in the shadow, thin and iridescent. Not oil, something else. Like fat, like skin. My throat tightened. We reached the ladder. I killed the motor, tied off, and climbed up onto the lower catwalk. It was wet with spray, slimy in patches. The steel under my boots vibrated faintly like it was alive. We moved along the catwalk toward the intake channel. Water rushed beneath us, fast and hungry, pulling toward the tubes. The sound was a constant low roar, like the platform breathing. Then the smell thickened, and my brain went into that cold professional place where you stop being human so you can do your job. The body was there. A man, mid-30s maybe, hard to tell, jammed against the intake, grate like the sea had tried to feed him into the machine and got stuck halfway. His dry suit was torn open in ribbons. One fin was still strapped to his boot, the other missing. His face, Jesus, Whitfield had said bashed in, and that was accurate, but it didn't cover it. The features were flattened, pressed sideways like someone had taken his head and worked it against steel until it gave up being a face. One eye stared out, swollen and milky, caught half open like it didn't understand it was dead. And the cuts, they weren't knife marks. They were rakes. Long, parallel gouges that started shallow and then bit deep, peeling suit material and skin together. Some of them crossed, deliberate, like whoever did it had changed angles to get better purchase. The chest was open, not surgically, not like a shark bite, more like something had hooked in and pulled, then pulled again and got pissed off when ribs resisted. The cavity was empty in a way that made my stomach lurch. Organs gone, yes, but also cleaned, like the inside had been scraped. Maria sucked in a breath that sounded like hunger. "Wasn't a person," she whispered, and I heard it clearly even with the rushing water. I shot her a look. "Don't," I said, because I knew exactly what she wanted to do. She didn't even pretend. Her gaze went to the blood slicking the grate, diluted but still red-black. She licked her lips once, slow. I grabbed her wrist hard enough to make her wince. "Maria," I said. Not here, not in front of him. Her eyes snapped to mine, bright and annoyed, and for a second that sweetness cracked and something colder stared out. Whitfield stood a step back, pale under his ruddy skin. He didn't look shocked like a normal person seeing this would. He looked vindicated, like he'd been waiting to say, "See," and now he could. "Mr. Edwards," he said, and his voice trembled with something that wasn't grief. Anger. "Do you want to know why I didn't call the Coast Guard?" I didn't answer immediately. I took photos. I noted angles. I watched how the water tugged at the torn suit. I try not to imagine the last seconds. Him alive, pinned here, water roaring, something outside the grate reaching in. Then I looked at Whitfield. "Tell me," I said. He leaned closer like he was afraid the platform might overhear. "Do you know about the protections on marine mammals out here?" he asked. I stared. "You mean federal law?" "Yeah," he snapped. "The goddamn laws. The way everyone bows down to seals and sea lions like they're saints. You can't touch them. Can't shoot them. Can't even scare them off without some asshole filming it and calling you a monster." His voice rose, bouncing under the platform. It made the space feel smaller. "Even when they're tearing up your gear," he went on. "Even when they're killing your stock. Even when you're supplying food for half the state and they're treating you like a villain because you don't want your entire operation eaten alive." I held up a hand. "Whitfield." "No," he hissed, and now his smile was gone completely. "Listen, the wildlife is disappearing. Not just fish, seals, otters, birds. Haven't seen a damn thing for months except the ones that come too close and then vanish. And the authorities? They tell you it's migration or cycle or whatever word makes them feel smart." Maria's wrist was still under my hand. I felt her pulse. Fast. Too fast. Whitfield jabbed a finger toward the body. "That was done by one of them," he said. "One of those bastards." I stared at him. A sea lion didn't do this. Whitfield's eyes flashed. "Not a normal sea lion," he said, and the way he said it made my skin prickle. "It's smart. Too smart. It watches. It learns. We've seen it on the cameras, just out of frame, just a shadow, like it knows where the lens can't see. It comes at night. It hits the pins, the lines, the hatch covers. It doesn't just eat. It ruins things." He swallowed hard. "There's more than one, and they're not staying where they're supposed to. The government isn't keeping them in their protected zones. They let them roam, and now they've got the taste of blood." He said blood like it had weight. I looked back at the body. The marks. The deliberate crossing angles. The way the chest had been opened. My brain tried to fit it into known patterns. Shark? No. Orca? Orcas tear, but this was hands. This was almost hands. "What makes you think it was?" I started. "It's happened before." Whitfield cut in, voice shaking. "Not like this. Not to a person, but to our stock. To our dogs. We had a guard dog vanish off the deck last month. Big bastard. 1 second barking at the water, next second gone like something hooked him and yanked him clean over. He wiped his face with the back of his hand, smearing sweat. My siblings guard from the windows with a rifle now. We don't let kids out on the lower deck after dark. And you think the Coast Guard will believe me if I call and tell them a protected animal ripped a man open like a zipper? They'll laugh. Or worse, They'll investigate us. They'll shut us down. Maria finally spoke, voice calm and clinical like she was forcing herself into scientist mode. Mr. Whitfield, she said, do you want no public authorities involved at all? Whitfield's answer was immediate. Absolutely not, he said. Then, after a beat, softer, not really. I'd get sued into the ground. I'd lose everything. Maria looked at me. Her eyes did that pleading thing again. Let me taste it. Let me know. Like the answer to this horror was sitting in diluted blood on steel. I hated her in that moment. Not for being strange, but for making me want to say yes because I needed an edge. I needed anything that made this make sense. I cleared my throat and forced my voice into business. We'll have to contact our agency's response team, I said. BRT, Biohazard and Recovery, and our coroner. You'll fill out incident forms. You will not touch anything else. You will keep your people away from this channel. Whitfield spread his hands like he'd been waiting for that. We have no cell service under here, he said quickly, like it was a gotcha. And the sat line is spotty. I let go of Maria's wrist long enough to step closer to him, blocking his view of her so she couldn't do anything stupid. We operate on a private network, I said. We don't need your signal. That was true, technically. The company had its own comms. Encrypted, routed through systems nobody could subpoena without starting a fight. They love that. We climbed back into the skiff and got out from under the platform. The moment we hit open air, I realized how tense my shoulders were. Under the platform, it felt like being under a lid. Back on the main deck, Whitfield led us into the module and handed me a tablet with forms already queued up. Like he practiced this. Like he'd been waiting for someone to die, so he could slot it into a workflow. I made the call from my own device, tucked in a case that looked like a normal phone, but wasn't. The screen stayed black while it connected. No dial tone. Just that faint pinging sound again, suddenly louder through the speaker, like the line itself was tapping. I gave our code phrases. I relayed the basics. Location, condition, signs of non-human involvement, client refusing public authorities. I kept my voice flat, professional, like I wasn't standing on a platform that felt like it was listening. There was a pause on the other end. Then a voice I recognized, clipped and tired. Copy, the voice said. BRT will deploy. Coroner will be notified. Maintain site integrity. Do not engage with local agencies. Await further instruction. ETA. I asked. Hours, the voice said. Weather dependent. Hours. On a platform where something had reached into an intake channel and peeled a man open. I ended the call and stared at the black screen. For a second, instead of my reflection, I saw something else, dark water, a pale shape beneath it, looking up. I blinked and it was gone. Just me, pale under fluorescent light, eyes bloodshot. Maria was watching me. Her gaze flicked to the hatch I'd noticed earlier, the old military one. Then back to me. You feel it too, she murmured. Feel what? I snapped. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. My teeth still ached with that pinging. Whitfield came back in with coffee we didn't ask for. You guys want to see the camera feeds? He asked, trying to sound helpful. We've caught some things. Later, I said. Right now, I want a list of everyone on this platform in the last week. Workers, family, contractors, anyone who's been near that intake channel. His smile twitched. That's a lot of paperwork. So, is a dead diver, I said, and my patience finally cracked. You want closure? You want your operation protected? Then stop making this harder. Whitfield's face reddened. You don't have to talk to me like I'm some idiot, he snapped. I leaned in, close enough that he could smell the salt on me. Then stop acting like one, I said quietly. You left a body in a channel and didn't call the Coast Guard because you were worried about being inconvenienced. That's not closure. That's cowardice. Maria's hand touched my arm, a warning. I shrug her off because anger is easier than fear. Whitfield's eyes narrowed. You don't know what you're talking about, he said. You don't live out here. No, I said. I'll just clean up what happens out here when people like you pretend the ocean is a pet. For a second, I thought he'd swing at me. Instead, he smiled again, slow, controlled. It was the first time he looked like he belonged in this story. "Fine," he said. "I'll get you your list. But don't come in here and act like you're the only one who's afraid." "I'm not afraid," I lied. He walked out. Maria exhaled, long and slow. "You pick fights when you need to feel bigger," she said. I glared. "And you taste blood when you need to feel smarter," I shot back. Her eyes flashed. "It tells me things," she said. "Blood doesn't talk," I said. Maria smiled, just a little. "Not to you." That pissed me off enough that I almost said something worse, but then the platform shuddered. Not a wave, not wind, a vibration that ran through the steel like a bass note. The overhead light flickered once, and from somewhere below, deep under the deck, under the waterline, we heard it. Knock. Not random, not a pipe settling. A single, deliberate knock that made every hair on my arms lift. Whitfield's relatives in the adjacent room laughed at something on a TV. The sound felt obscene against that knock, like laughter at a funeral. Maria's eyes went wide, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked scared. "Pressure change," I muttered, more to myself than her. She shook her head slowly. "No," she whispered. "That's someone." I forced a chuckle that came out wrong. "Someone doesn't knock from outside a platform," I said. "There's nothing out there but water." Knock. A second one. Same spacing. Same calm. Ping ping. The faint sonar rhythm threaded through it, like the platform itself was answering. I stood up so fast my chair scraped. "I'm going for a walk," I said, because if I stayed in that room, I was going to start believing my own fear. Maria grabbed my sleeve. "Don't," she said. "Don't tell me what to do." I snapped and I yanked free. I stepped out onto the deck. Cold air slapped me. The sea looked the same, gray, flat, indifferent. But the cove felt wrong. Too still, like a hell breath. I walked toward the intake side and leaned over the rail. Water surged into the tubes, foaming white at the edges. The sound was constant, hypnotic. Then, just for a second, something pale rolled beneath the surface. Not a fish. Too big, too smooth. It moved like it was turning to look. My throat tightened. I blinked hard and stared, trying to catch it again. Nothing. Just black water and foam. Behind me, a deckhand called my name. "Mr. Edwards? Whitfield's got your list." I turned away from the rail, forcing myself to move like a normal person. When I stepped back into the module, Maria was standing with her hands clenched, eyes fixed on the floor like she was listening to something in the metal. Whitfield slapped the tablet down in front of me. "Here," he said, "everybody who's been on site." "Happy." I scrolled. Names. Dates. Contractors. A couple of research personnel with initials instead of full names. Company habit when they don't want you digging. One name jumped out and punched me in the chest. Not because it was unfamiliar, because it was my brother's last name. Different first name, different initials, but I knew the pattern. I knew the way the company hid him. I knew how he moved through projects like a ghost with a corporate badge. My mouth went dry. "Who is this?" I said, and I tried to keep my voice steady. Whitfield shrugged. "Some consultant. Your people sent him. He was here last week checking the lower module. Said it was maintenance." Maria leaned in, reading over my shoulder. I saw her pupils widen slightly, like she just tasted something without tasting it. I stared at the name until the letters blurred. The ocean outside slapped the pilings like applause. Whitfield watched me, and his smile returned, small and satisfied. "You know him?" he asked. I forced my eyes up. "No." I lied again, because lying is reflex when your brother's shadow shows up in your case file. Whitfield nodded slowly like he didn't believe me and didn't care. That's when my device buzzed once. Silent vibration against my thigh. Incoming message. Internal. BRT had changed their ETA. Not ours. They were delayed. Weather, they said. Always weather. Always something that wasn't anyone's fault. I stared at the screen and felt something cold open in my chest. The company wasn't coming fast because the company didn't want to come fast. The company wanted time. Time to move something. Time to erase something. Time to let whatever was down there finish whatever it started. Maria's hand slid into mine under the table, warm, steady. She squeezed once. "Clark," she murmured, so soft only I could hear. "We should leave." I almost laughed. "And go where?" I whisper back. "We're on a platform in the middle of the goddamn strait." Maria's eyes flicked to the old military hatch again. "Down," she said. "That's where it is." Whitfield leaned forward. "What are you two whispering about?" he asked, voice sharp. "Nothing," I said too fast. He smiled wider. "Sure. I should have grabbed Maria and gotten back on the boat right then. I should have told Whitfield to go to hell and called the Coast Guard myself and let the company fire me. I should have listened to the part of my brain that screamed that this wasn't a simple case and never had been. Instead, I stayed because my brother's name was on that list, and I've spent my whole life reacting to him like he's gravity. We stayed on that platform until the light started to bleed out of the sky, until the cove turned from gray to black. Whitfield's relatives went inside. The deckhands got quiet. The sea went still in that unnatural way that makes sailors spit and cross themselves. And the knocking started again. Slow, patient, from below. Knock, pause, knock. Maria sat beside me in the module, hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't sipped. I watched the security feeds Whitfield pulled up, one after another. Empty walkways, empty pens, water that looked like oil. Every now and then a flicker at the edge of frame, a pale blur just out of focus like something smart enough to avoid being seen. Whitfield kept glancing at us, waiting for us to admit he was right about his sentient animals. He wanted that satisfaction almost more than he wanted the dead man explained. At one point, Maria leaned close to the screen, eyes narrowed, and whispered, "It's not an animal." "What is it then?" I hissed. Maria's jaw worked. "It's trained," she said. "Or made." Made. The word hit me like a wave in cold water. I thought of my brother, his clean hands, his smile that looked like Whitfield's when he knew something you didn't. The way he talked about solutions like they were inevitable. I'm going to stop for a second because my vision is swimming and my eyelids feel like lead. Maria is still sleeping, breathing shallow because it hurts when her ribs move. The wounds on her side seep when she shifts. I taped them as best I could. I'm not a medic. I'm not even supposed to be here without one. Whatever got in her blood is in mine now. I can feel it when I swallow. A metallic taste. Not just iron. Something else like old coins soaked in seawater. The pain from the claw marks on my forearm flares every time the room gets colder, like the cuts remember the ocean. I don't want to sleep because I'm scared of what I'll hear if I do. But staying awake hurts, and the motel's walls are thin, and every time the pipes gurgle, I think it's the platform again, that steady knock, that patient promise. After seeing Maria hurt, after getting my ass kicked, after realizing whose fingerprints are all over this case, I decided I'm going to write it down. All of it. The disgusting details. The part one don't want to say out loud. The part about my brother. I don't care how rich he is. I don't care how many bots and little social media wolves he has that will try to shred this post the second it goes up. His actions need light on them. I really hate my brother. I didn't hit post that night in Kodiak. I saved it as a draft and stared at the cursor until my eyes burned, because even now, a part of me still obeys. That's the sickest thing the company ever did to me. They didn't have to chain me up. They trained my own fear to do it for them. Maria slept. The motel's pipework clicked. Every time the drain gurgled, I heard the platform. Knock. Pause. Knock. I'm going to tell you what happened anyway. If it gets deleted, fine. I'm not doing this to go viral. I'm doing it because the thing in my blood is patient, and I don't want the last record of me to be an internal memo that says incident contained. The knocking on the platform got worse after dark. It stopped being one or two taps and turned into a rhythm, like a slow code. Whitfield played dumb about it, pretended it was settling and water pressure and old steel singing, but he watched the floor every time it happened, like a dog hearing thunder through the ground. The wind picked up. The pens creaked. Somewhere out in the strait, something big exhaled once. Could have been a whale, except it sounded too close and too wet, like the breath came from under the platform, not out in open water. Whitfield kept his people inside. He tried to keep us inside too, like we were guests instead of the hired help he'd dragged into his mess. He offered dinner, offered whiskey, offered a room in the module so we wouldn't have to sleep on a boat. I told him to shove it. "What's your plan, Clark?" Maria asked me, low, while Whitfield was arguing with a deckhand about lockup procedures. Her voice was steady, but her fingers kept rubbing her thumb like she was sanding something invisible off her skin. "Wait for BRT. They'll come," I said. She stared at me. "They delayed," she reminded me. "They delayed after you saw his name." "Don't say that," I snapped. Maria didn't flinch. "You're not stupid," she said. "You know what this is." I looked through the window at the cove. The water sat black and smooth. No ripes, no fish breaks, no gasdrifting. It looked like dead oil. The intake tubes drank it in with a constant hiss. "I know what it isn't," I said. Maria leaned closer. "You keep pretending it's an animal because that makes it natural," she whispered. "But it's not natural." I wanted to tell her to shut up. I wanted to tell her she was being dramatic. I wanted something to yell at that wasn't the ocean. Instead, I asked her, "What did you taste?" Her eyes flicked to my mouth like she expected me to regret asking. "Blood," she said. "No shit, Isha." "Not just blood," she said, and her voice dropped even more. "Salt, zinc, and something sweet, like antifreeze, like preserved tissue." I felt my stomach harden. "You tasted it," I said, accusation. She shrugged. "Not with my tongue," she said. "With my head." That made my skin crawl because I knew what she meant. Maria's weird isn't just odd habit. Maria's weird is the kind of weird the company recruits, bottles, and uses. Whitfield came back and then, face flushed, jaw clenched. "We're sealing the lower access," he announced, like he was declaring martial law. "Nobody's going down there tonight." Maria's eyes snapped to him. "Why?" she said flatly. "Because it's unsafe," Whitfield said. "Because the tide is coming in, the current picks up, and I'm not having anyone drown on my deck." "You already had someone die on your deck," I said. His smile didn't come back this time. "That man," he said, "wasn't my problem until he got stuck in my grate." I stood so fast my chair skidded. "Say that again," I said. Whitfield's eyes narrowed. "You don't get to talk to me like." Maria cut in, sharp as a hook. "Mr. Whitfield," she said, "you hired us for closure. You're going to tell us what you're not telling." Whitfield's throat bobbed. He glanced toward the hatch like it might hear him. Then he spat the words like he hated them. "Fine," he said. "It's not just the wildlife. It's the damn station." I didn't move. I didn't blink. "What station?" I asked. He jerked his chin toward the old military hatch. "Under us," he said. "The relay. The listening post. Whatever you want to call it. The Navy left it behind. Said it was decommissioned. Then your people showed up a year ago and told me they wanted to inspect it. After that, things started changing." "Changing how?" Maria asked. Whitfield's mouth twisted. "Sound," he said. "At night. Pings. Knocks. Like something talking down there." "The pings," I said, and it came out as a statement, not a question. He nodded once. "And my fish started acting wrong," he said. "They'd slam into the nets like they were trying to get out of the water. I lost a whole pen in one night because they panicked and tore themselves to ribbons. You ever seen fish try to drown? That's what it looked like. I pictured it. Silver bodies thrashing, water turning foamy, scales like glitter and blood. I hated that my brain could make it so clear. And then the wildlife vanished." Whitfield continued, voice tight. "And then the things started showing up on cameras. And then a man died in my intake grate." He stared at me like he expected sympathy. I gave him none. "You went down there," I said. Whitfield's jaw clenched. "Once," he admitted, "with a contractor. We found the hatch open." Maria's breath caught. "Open," she echoed. Whitfield nodded. "It should have been sealed, welded shut, but it was open just enough to breathe." He shuddered like he hated the memory. "Cold air coming up. Vet. Like a cave." "You didn't tell the Coast Guard," I said. "You didn't tell the Navy. You didn't tell anyone. You hired us and tried to make it about sea lions." Whitfield snapped. Because nobody listens unless there's a body. And even then, they don't listen if it's inconvenient. I stepped closer until he backed up against a cabinet. You're not the victim here, I said low. You're a rich idiot standing on a trapdoor. Whitfield's eyes flashed with real anger now. And you, he said, voice trembling, you're not some hero. Your agency came here first. Your agency poked it. Your agency, he jabbed a finger in my chest. You people are the reason it woke up. Maria's hand slid onto my forearm. Not gentle, a grip, a warning. I stared at Whitfield. In the back of my skull, my brother's name burned like a brand. Show me, I said. Whitfield swallowed. No, he said immediately. Show me, I repeated. It's sealed, he snapped. I told you. I leaned in so close my breath fogged his cheek. You can seal a hatch, I said, but you can't seal water. If there's something under us, it's under us whether you like it or not. Either you show me now, or I call the Coast Guard myself and tell them you left a dead diver to rot in your intake while you played property manager. Whitfield's lips pulled back. For a second, he looked like he'd bite me. Then he looked away, defeated by the one thing he actually feared, losing control. Fine, he said, and the word came out like a curse. But if you go down there and die, that's not on me. It already is, Maria said, and her voice was cold enough to freeze seawater. Whitfield led us out into the night. The deck lights cast harsh circles on wet steel. Beyond them, the sea was a flat void. The wind had teeth. It shoved salt spray into my eyes. The pens creaked and groaned, empty like ribs. As we walked toward the hatch, the pinging got louder. Not from speakers, not from equipment, from the metal itself. Like the platform was a giant tuning fork, and something below kept striking it. Whitfield stopped at the hatch. Up close, I could see fresh scratches around the seal. Not rust, not weather. Something had scraped at it from the inside, like fingernails on a coffin. He fumbled with a padlock. His fingers shook so hard he dropped the key once. I watched him, and for the first time I saw a man who'd built his life on money and suddenly realized money doesn't buy you depth. You sure you want this? He muttered. No, I said honestly. Open it. Whitfield popped the lock and heaved the hatch. It groaned like it was reluctant. Cold air rolled up, wet and heavy. It smelled like low tide inside a pipe. The kind of smell that gets into your hair and stays for days. Mold, brine, something sharp, ozone like electronics burning. A ladder descended into darkness. Moisture beaded on the rungs. Water dripped steadily from somewhere below, despite the fact we were above the waterline. Drip, drip, like the station was already leaking into the world. Maria peered down, face unreadable. Hear that, she whispered. I listened. Under the wind, under the sea slap, there was a sound, faint, rhythmic. Not the pinging, breathing. Slow, deep, too steady to be human. Whitfield backed away. I'm staying up here, he said quickly. Of course you are, I muttered. I pulled on my headlamp. Maria did the same. We checked our gear, radio, rope, evidence kit, sidearm. I wasn't supposed to carry on private sites, but fuck it, I wasn't going into a hole in the ocean unarmed. Maria touched my shoulder. If you start acting stupid, she said, I'll drag you out. I snorted. You? Her eyes flashed. Yes, she said. Me? That was the last normal argument we had. We climbed down. The ladder was slick. My gloves squeaked on wet steel. Halfway down, the air got colder, like someone had opened a freezer door. My breath fogged in front of my face. At the bottom, our headlamps cut across a narrow passage lined with pipes and cable runs. The floor was grated. Water pooled in shallow patches, reflecting our lights in broken shards. The walls sweated condensation. Every surface felt damp, like the station couldn't decide if it wanted to be underwater or not. The pinging was louder here, but now it had direction. It came from deeper in the station, down a corridor that curved away. Ping, ping. Pause. Ping, ping. Like a heartbeat made of sonar. Maria moved ahead, scanning. This is old, she murmured. But modified. She was right. The bulkheads had Old Navy stenciling under layers of newer paint. Cables were bundled in modern conduit. Someone had installed fresh sensors. New locks. New cameras, some of them smashed. We passed a door with a small window. The glass was fogged from the inside, as if the room was warmer. Something had wiped a smear across it, leaving a clean arc like a handprint. Only it wasn't a hand. It was too long. Too many joints. Maria's headlamp jittered. "Clark," she whispered. "Keep moving," I said, because stopping meant letting my brain imagine. We reached a junction. One corridor led toward a room humming with power, generator, or battery bank. Another led toward the sound. A third had a hatch in the floor with yellow paint around it, warning stripes worn thin. The floor hatch was damp around the seams, and the metal was cold enough to bite. A faint vibration pulsed through it, like a live wire. Maria knelt beside it. Her breath made the paint shine. "That's below the waterline," she said. "Nosleep imutarath." She looked up at me. "Something's down there," she said. I forced a laugh. "Everything's down there," I said. "That's the ocean." Maria's face didn't change. "Not ocean," she said. "Not only ocean." My radio crackled then, a burst of static that made us both flinch. For a second, in the noise, I heard something else, like a voice underwater, warped and slow, trying to form words. Then it snapped back to silence. I checked the device. No signal, of course. The Station 8 signal. It felt like a mouth. We followed the pinging. The corridor curved and opened into a larger room that must have been the core, old listening module. Racks of equipment lined the walls, some ancient and dead, some newer and lit with small LEDs. The air here smelled stronger. Hot electronics, damp metal, old salt. In the center of the room was a console with multiple screens. One of them displayed a sonar-like interface, rings expanding outward, lines scrolling. Another showed camera feeds, dark water, the underside of the platform, the intake channel, the pins. And on the third screen was a log interface with a name stamped at the top. Not my brother's first name, but his ID tag, the kind only internal people used. I felt my throat close. "No, you whispered." Maria stepped beside me, eyes scanning fast. "Your family," she said softly, not accusing, just stating what she saw on my face. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I leaned in and scrolled through the logs. Dates, times, entries in clipped corporate language. Acoustic array calibration complete. BIO response protocol engaged. Subjects showed improved pattern recognition after exposure. Contact event at intake. Successful extraction failed due to great interference. My stomach turned. "Subjects," I said. Maria's voice was tight. "Animals," she whispered. "Or worse," I said. Something moved on one of the camera feeds. A pale shape slid through the black water under the platform, just out of the light cone. It moved too smoothly, like it wasn't swimming so much as gliding. It paused near the intake, then rolled, showing a flash of something that looked like an eye. Except it was wrong. Too forward. Too aware. Maria leaned closer until her face almost touched the screen. "It's watching," she murmured. I clicked through feeds, hands shaking. The shape appeared again on a different camera, like it knew where the blind spots were and liked teasing them. Then the monitor flickered. For a split second, instead of the camera view, it showed a reflection, our two faces ghost white in the screen. And behind us, in the darkness of the room, something tall and pale. I spun so fast my shoulder slammed a rack. My headlamp beam cut across empty air. Nothing behind us, just damp metal and shadows. Maria's breath hitched. "You saw it," she whispered. "I saw a glitch," I snapped. She grabbed my arm, nails biting through fabric. "Don't," she said. "Don't lie to yourself in here." The pinging changed then. It sped up. Ping, ping, ping. Like excitement. Like it sensed us. I backed away from the console and drew my weapon without thinking. The metal felt cold through my glove, like I'd dipped it in seawater. Maria didn't pull a gun. She pulled a small sample vial from her kit, like evidence would save her. "Why is he here?" she whispered, looking at the logs again. "Why is your brother?" "Don't," I said, harsh. "Don't say his name down here." Maria stared at me. "You think it hears names?" she said. I didn't know what I thought. I just knew the station felt like it listened, like it remembered. The floor hatch we'd passed earlier shuddered once. A deep, slow vibration ran up through my boots. Knock, not from the walls, from under the floor. Maria turned toward it like a magnet. "That's it," she whispered. I should have grabbed her and run up the ladder. I should have sealed the hatch and let the company deal with it. I should have been a coward like Whitfield. Instead, I followed her because the logs with my brother's ID burned behind my eyes. And if my brother had built something down here, I needed to see it with my own eyes. We went back to the junction. The floor hatch sat there like an invitation. Water glistened around the seams. The vibration pulsed again. Knock. Maria knelt, fingers hovering over the latch. "It's pressurized," she murmured like she could smell it. "Don't open that," I said. Maria looked up. Her eyes were bright, almost feverish. "Clark," she said, "if we leave without knowing, the company will bury it. Your brother will bury it. People will die, and it will become a rumor." "People already died," I hissed. "And more will," she said. "Unless you stop him." Stop him. Like I could stop my brother. Like I hadn't spent my whole life losing to him in slow, clean ways. I grabbed Maria's shoulder and yanked her back. "We're not opening it," I said. She shoved my hand off. Hard. "Fuck you," she snapped, and it wasn't sweet Maria anymore. It was the Maria who'd survived whatever the company did to her. "You don't get to decide when I'm scared." "Maria." She popped the latch. A hiss of cold air burst out, wet and sharp. The smell that came up made my eyes water. It was ocean, but wrong ocean, stagnant, metallic like deep water that hadn't seen sunlight in years. It carried that sweet chemical note Maria had mentioned like preserved tissue. We both leaned over. Below the hatch was a vertical shaft lined with rungs. It dropped into darkness. Water mist hung in the air, cold enough to sting. Far below, something glowed faintly, blue-green like bioluminescence. The pinging came from down there, louder now, and it didn't sound like equipment anymore. It sounded like something making the noise on purpose. Maria started down. "Jesus Christ," I muttered, and I followed because I couldn't let her go alone. I hate that about myself. I hate that I'm loyal to the wrong things. The shaft narrowed the further we descended. Moisture coated everything. My ears popped twice as pressure changed, which made no sense because we weren't underwater yet, but the air felt heavy, like it carried weight. At the bottom, our boots hit a narrow ledge. Water lapped just below it. We were at the edge of a flooded chamber. My headlamp beam cut across black water that didn't ripple the way water should. It moved slow, thick. The surface reflected our lights in a dull smear, not a clean mirror. Pipes ran into the chamber like arteries. Thick intake lines, smaller hoses, cables that disappeared into the water. On the far side, half submerged, was a steel door with a wheel handle, like a submarine hatch. And between us and that door, in the water, something moved. At first I thought it was kelp. Then it rose slightly, and I saw the curve of a back, pale, slick too smooth. It didn't break the surface fully. It hovered under it, like it didn't want to show itself yet. Maria's breath hitched. She crouched at the edge and dipped her gloved fingers into the water. "Don't," I whispered, but it was too late. She pulled her fingers out and brought them to her nose, then to her lips like she couldn't help herself. She tasted the water. Her eyes widened. "Fuck," she whispered. "What?" I hissed. Maria swallowed hard. "It's not just salt," she said. "It's blood. Old blood." The surface shifted. A shape slid closer to the ledge, slow and deliberate. I raised my gun, aiming at where I thought a head would be. Knock. The sound didn't come from a wall. It came from inside my skull, like the pressure itself tapped on my brain. Maria pressed her palm against her temple. "It's talking," she whispered, voice trembling with something I didn't want to name. "Back up," I said, and my voice shook. Back up now. Maria didn't move. The shape rose. A face broke the surface, and for a second my brain refused to understand it. It wasn't a sea lion. It wasn't a seal. Not cleanly. It had the blunt, rounded skull shape, the wet sheen, but the features were rearranged. The eyes sat too forward, too human in their placement. The nostrils flared like it was tasting air. Its mouth was closed, but the lips, if you could call them that, pulled back slightly, showing teeth that were wrong. Not the conical teeth of a pinniped, flat in places, sharper in others, like something had filed them or grown them uneven. And the skin, God, it looked like it had been burned and healed. Patchy, scarred. In some spots, I saw dark lines under the skin like veins thickened like something injected. It stared at us. Not like an animal stares, like a person stares when they recognize you. Then it blinked slow, and I heard the pinging again, but now it came from its throat. A soft, wet ping-ping, like it was clicking its tongue in imitation of sonar. Maria whispered, it learned. The creature moved one foreflipper, except it wasn't a flipper. The ends split into long, jointed digits, webbing between them stretched thin. It lifted that hand, and placed it gently on the ledge, finger splayed. Claw marks scored the steel. I fired. The shot cracked in the enclosed space like thunder. The muzzle flash lit the chamber for a fraction of a second, and in that flash I saw more of it under the water. Long body, muscles rippling, scars and sutures, and something strapped to its side like a harness, metal glinting. The bullet hit the water with a smack and sent up spray. The creature didn't flinch like an animal. It dipped under, vanished into the black, and the water smoothed out like nothing happened. Maria grabbed my wrist. You scared it, she hissed. Good, I snapped. The water bulged. Something hit the ledge from below. The entire platform shuddered, and the air in my lungs jerked like someone punched me. Maria lost her balance and stumbled. I grabbed her jacket and yanked her back from the edge just as a hand, web-clawed, shot out of the water and raked across where her thigh had been. The claws hit steel instead, screeching, sending sparks. I aimed down and fired again, this time into the water at point blank. The recoil jolted my arm. The shot punched into the dark. The water exploded upward. The creature surged out faster than my brain could track. It didn't haul itself up like a seal. It climbed like a person. It grabbed the ledge with both hands and pulled, wet muscle rolling under scarred skin. Its head rose, dripping, and it opened its mouth. There was no roar. There was a sound like air pushed through a pipe, wet, layered, and under it, a whisper of something that almost sounded like words, warped by water and pressure. Maria screamed once, short and sharp. I swung the gun and fired at its face. The bullet hit something hard metal. Sparks jumped. The creature's head snapped sideways, but it didn't fall. It clung there, eyes fixed on me, and those eyes weren't wild. They were focused. It lunged. Its hand closed around my forearm, crushing. The claws punched through my jacket and into my skin like hooks. Pain flared white-hot. I swung the gun, but into its skull once, twice, feeling the impact vibrate up my bones. Maria grabbed a steel rod from the ledge and slammed it down on the creature's wrist. The blow should have broken bone. The creature didn't even yelp. It tightened its grip. I felt warm blood pour down my arm, mixing with cold seawater. Let go, I bellowed, and I shoved my gun into its mouth and fired. The chamber lit with muzzle flash. The recoil slammed my wrist. The creature convulsed violently. Its jaw snapped shut around the gun, teeth grinding metal. Then it let go. It dropped back into the water with a splash that soaked us both. The surface churned, then stilled again. No blood floated up, no body, just black water and that faint pinging echoing in the shaft. I stared at my arm. 4 deep gashes, parallel, already swelling. Blood streamed down, dark in the headlamp. Maria grabbed my face in both hands. Clark, she breathed, eyes huge. We have to go. Now. My ears rang. My heart hammered so hard it felt like pressure. I nodded because for once my anger had nowhere to go. We scrambled up the shaft ladder, slipping on wet rungs. My arm throbbed. Every time I pulled, the cuts reopened. Blood dripped down my sleeve. Halfway up, the pinging changed again. It became frantic like laughter. Ping, 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 ping. Maria climbed faster, breathing ragged. "It's coming," she gasped. "Move." I snapped, but my voice sounded far away. At the top, we hauled ourselves out into the junction corridor. I slammed the hatch shut behind us and spun the wheel lock until my hands shook. The floor vibrated again. Knock. Harder now, like something struck the underside with a fist. The hatch shuddered. Maria backed away, eyes locked on it. "It's stronger in water," she whispered. "Nosleep y panta." We ran. The corridor felt longer on the way back, like the station stretched when it wanted to keep you. The air thickened. Condensation dripped faster, like it was raining inside. Somewhere behind us, metal shrieked, something scraping at something. My radio crackled again. Static, then a burst of sound that made my blood freeze. A voice. Not a clear voice. A recorded voice, warped and slow, like tape played underwater. My brother's voice. Calibration successful. Maria heard it too. Her eyes snapped to mine, and in that look I saw confirmation that I wasn't imagining it. "Keep moving." I barked, and we kept moving because if I stopped to think, I'd fall apart. We reached the ladder. Cold air hit our faces like freedom. We climbed up into the hatch space under the deck, hands slipping, breath ragged. Above us, the platform knocked again. Knock, knock, like something tapping on the hull from below. We emerged onto the deck, and the night wind slapped us hard. The sky had gone darker, clouds thick. The sea beyond the lights looked like one endless mouth. Whitfield was waiting, pale eyes wide. "What did you do?" he demanded, voice cracking. "What the hell did you do?" "You had this open," I snapped, shoving past him. "You had this under your feet, and you didn't tell anyone." Whitfield grabbed my good arm. "Don't turn this on me." Maria shoved him hard enough to make him stumble. "Get your boat," she hissed. "We're leaving." Whitfield's face twisted. "You can't leave," he snapped. "It's..." Another knock rolled up through the deck, so strong it made the lights flicker. Whitfield flinched like he'd been slapped. Maria leaned in, eyes blazing. "If you try to stop us," she said, "I'll tell the Coast Guard you knowingly concealed a hazardous military structure under an active operation and left a dead man to rot in your intake. I'll ruin you." Whitfield stared at her like he couldn't believe someone pretty could be that vicious. Then he looked at my bleeding arm and something in him broke. "Fine," he whispered. "Fine. Go." We sprinted to the skiff. The deckhands tried to intervene. "Sir, you can't, and it's unsafe." But Whitfield barked at them to stand down, and they did, because rich men are kings until the sea takes them. I slammed the skiff motor to life. It coughed, then roared. Maria jumped in, eyes scanning the water like she expected hands to reach up. As we pulled away from the platform, the pinging followed us. Not through air, through the water. It vibrated up the hull of the skiff, a steady pulse that matched my heartbeat and made me want to puke. Maria clutched the side, knuckles white. "It's tracking us," she whispered. "Ow." I snapped over the motor. "It can't." The skiff lurched. Something hit it from below, hard enough to lift the bow. Maria screamed, grabbed my shoulder. I fought the wheel, nearly losing it. The motor whined as the prop churned. A pale shape flashed under us in the wake light. Not fully visible, just a smooth curve and a glint like an eye. Then the knocking started on the skiff itself. "Top! Top!" from under the aluminum. Like fingers. Maria slapped the hull, eyes wild. "Go," she screamed. I gunned it. The skiff tore across black water. Wind screamed. Spray slapped us, freezing. The platform lights receded behind, a yellow smear in darkness. "Top! Top! Top!" It kept pace. I looked back once against every instinct. In the wake, a line of faint blue-green dots rose and sank like a spine of bioluminescence. too organized to be plankton, too steady, like something marking its path. Maria saw it too. She made a sound in her throat that wasn't a word, wasn't a sob, just raw disbelief. "We can't outrun it," she gasped. "Yes, we can." I lied because the alternative was stopping. The coastline came into view. Dark shapes, rocks, a narrow harbor cut. Kodiak's dock lights glowed like a promise. As we neared, the tapping stopped. For a second, I thought we'd made it. I let out a breath that shook my entire chest. Then the motor sputtered. Once. Twice. It coughed like it had swallowed water. "No," I growled, slamming the throttle. The motor died. Silence fell so hard it felt like pressure. Only wind and water and the faint pinging, now very close, very slow. Ping, ping. Maria's eyes went huge. "Clark," she whispered. It did that. I yanked at the starter cord. It resisted like it was stuck. I tried again. Nothing. The motor was dead. The skiff drifted, rocking, and the harbor lights seemed suddenly far, like an unreachable shore. Top! One tap directly under my feet. Then another. The hull flexed slightly, like something pressed up from below. Maria grabbed the flare gun from the emergency kit and aimed it at the water. Her hand shook. "If it comes up," she said through clenched teeth, "I'll burn it." "You'll burn us," I snapped. "Then we burn," she spat back. The water beside the skiff bulged. A hand broke the surface, silent. Web fingers, black claws, dripping. It gripped the edge of the skiff. The aluminum creaked. The hand pulled. The skiff tipped. Maria screamed and fired the flare without thinking. The flare streaked out and splashed into the water right beside the creature's hand. For a second, the water glowed red, steam hissing. The creature recoiled, and in that moment I saw its head rise, scarred, wet, with that metal harness glinting, and its eyes locked on me like it knew exactly who I was. It didn't roar. It made that wet air-through pipe sound again, and under it, through the water, through the pressure, I heard words. Not clear, not normal, but close enough. "Clark." My name. I froze. Maria didn't. She lunged forward with the steel rod we'd brought up, still in her hand, and swung down on the creature's hand, smashing claws against aluminum. The creature yanked back, but not before one claw caught Maria's side. It opened her like a zipper. She gasped. No scream, just a wet intake, and her knees buckled. Blood poured dark against her jacket, immediately diluted by spray. "Maria," I shouted, and I grabbed her, hauling her back. The creature slapped the hull hard enough to dent it, then slipped under the surface, vanishing into black. The skiff rocked, settling. The tapping stopped. Maria pressed a hand to her side. Blood ran between her fingers. Her face went gray under the harbor lights. "You okay?" I demanded, even though the question was stupid. She laughed once, a short, ugly sound. "No," she rasped. "Start it." I yanked at the cord again, harder, desperate. This time it caught. The motor coughed, sputtered, then roared back to life like it had decided to let us go. I didn't question it. I gunned it, and we slammed into the harbor with spray flying, the dock looming. I nearly tore the skiff apart docking, but I didn't care. I half-carried Maria onto the dock. My arm bled. Her side bled worse. People shouted, dock workers, night security, someone's dog barking, but nobody came too close because blood makes people cowardly. Maria leaned into me, breath shallow. "No hospital," she whispered, and her voice was weak but firm. "I know," I said, and my throat burned. "I know. Company policy," she breathed, and she almost smiled like it was a joke. I wanted to scream. We got into the rental. I drove like a drunk, one-handed, eyes flicking to every puddle, every dark patch of road like it might rise and follow. Maria clenched her teeth and stayed awake by sheer spite. She pressed a towel to her side until it turned black. At the motel, I dragged her inside. The front desk guy started to say something about blood, and I slammed a $100 bill on the counter and told him to shut the fuck up. In the room, I stripped Maria's jacket off carefully. The gashes were deep, jagged. Claw marks, no doubt now. They weren't clean slices. They were hooks that dug and tore. I cleaned them with bottled water and vodka because that's what I had. I wrapped them tight. Maria didn't cry. She gripped my wrist once hard enough to bruise and breathed through it. Then she did the thing that made me want to vomit. She licked the blood off her own fingers. "Stop," I snapped, voice cracking. Maria's eyes flicked up. "It's in me," she whispered. "I need to know." "Know what?" I hissed, and my anger finally cracked enough to let fear through. "Know what it tastes like when you die." Maria swallowed. Her throat worked. "It's not going to let us just leave," she whispered. "Istirte her." "We did leave," I said. Maria's gaze drifted to the motel window. Beyond it, I could see the harbor in the distance, just a smear of lights. The ocean beyond was black, endless. She shook her head slowly. "Clark," she whispered, "it's not chasing the boat. It's chasing the sound." "The sound," I echoed, confused. Maria's eyes snapped back to mine. "The pings," she said. "The knocks. It learned them. It uses them. It follows them." My skin crawled. I thought of the logs. Acoustic arrays. Calibration. Exposure. Subjects. I thought of my brother. And I realized something that made my mouth go dry. "It's not wild," I whispered. Maria nodded once. "It's trained," she said. "Like a dog. My brother always loved dogs when we were kids. Not the cuddly part. The obedience part. The part where you say a word and something living moves the way you want." I sat on the edge of the bed and felt the room tilt. My arm throbbed. The cuts burned like they'd been packed with salt. My device buzzed again. Internal message. "BRT, stand down. Site under internal review. Do not engage further. Await direct supervisor contact. Stand down. Site under internal review." I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. They weren't coming. They weren't delayed. They were stopping it. On paper. They were going to let Whitfield handle it. Or bury it. Or feed more people to it until it stopped being a problem. Which is how the company solves problems. Maria watched me read. "What?" she whispered. I showed her the message. She laughed again, that ugly little laugh. "Of course," she rasped. "Of course they do that." I felt something hard and cold settle in my chest. Not fear. Not yet. Something else. Rage. "I'm going back," I said. Maria's eyes widened. "No," she said immediately. "You're not." "Yes," I said, and my voice was too calm. "I'm going back. I'm dragging my brother into the light. Maria grabbed my shirt and yanked me close, face inches from mine. Her breath smelled like metal and vodka. "Clark," she hissed, "listen to me. That thing touched your blood. It touched mine. It knows us now. If you go back, you don't go back to fight a corporation. You go back to feed a creature that says your name." I froze. My stomach rolled. Maria's grip loosened, but she kept her eyes on mine. "You want to hurt your brother," she whispered. "I get it, but not like this." I stared at her, and the part of me that loves her, the stupid part, wanted to obey. Then my device buzzed again. Direct supervisor contact. Incoming video. The screen stayed black. Audio only. The same as earlier. The pinging sound came through first, faint like background. Then a voice, smooth and familiar in a way that made my blood turn cold. "My brother. Clark," he said, like we were catching up over coffee. "Look at you. Always finding the deep end." I couldn't speak for a second. My throat locked. Maria's eyes narrowed, and she leaned closer, listening. "I'm going to make this simple," my brother continued. "You're going to follow the instruction you received. You're going to stop poking around. You're going to leave Kodiak. You're going to file the report we write for you. And you're going to pretend tonight never happened." I gripped the device so hard my knuckles whitened. "You put your name in the logs," I said finally, voice shaking with fury. "You think I wouldn't see it?" A soft chuckle. "I wanted you to," he said. "I'm tired of hiding from you." That made my stomach drop. "What did you do?" I demanded. My brother sighed like I was being annoying. "We improved a process," he said. "We solved a problem." "What problem?" I snapped. "The ocean is loud," he said. "It's full of noise, full of signals you can't control. That relay station was designed to listen through it. We repurposed it. We created a subject that can move through noise and bring us clean data. Maria's lips parted. "Subject," she mouthed. My brother's voice stayed calm, almost bored. "You've seen it," he said. "You've met it. It's remarkable, isn't it?" "It killed a man," I snarled. "It extracted a sample," he corrected, and that casual phrasing made me see red. The diver wasn't cleared. He was trespassing. Whitfield hired the wrong contractor. Accidents happen. "It cut Maria," I said, and my voice broke. A pause. Not long, but long enough to make me imagine my brother's face, tilt of head, fake concern. "Maria Engel," he said, and he pronounced her name perfectly, which made my skin crawl. Yes, she was always interesting. She shouldn't have been there. "You know her," Maria whispered, horror in her tone. My brother continued. "This is what you don't understand, Clark. You think you're the good one because you complain, because you act angry, but you stay. You always stay. You're still ours." I clenched my jaw. "Fuck you," I said. He chuckled again, softer. "There it is," he said. "There's my brother. Listen, you're bleeding. Maria's bleeding. Neither of you can go to a hospital. Who do you think that benefits?" My stomach turned. "You can hate me," my brother said. "I don't care. But you're going to do what I tell you, because I'm the only reason your company doesn't erase you for what you just saw." I stared at the device, shaking. Maria's hand found mine, squeezed hard, like she was anchoring me. "Last thing," my brother added, voice almost gentle. "Don't say its name." I froze. "It has a name," I whispered, a faint smile in his voice. "It learns faster if you name it," he said. "And Clark." "What?" I spat. "You already did," he said. The line clicked dead. Silence filled the room, thick and wet, like we were underwater. Maria stared at me, eyes wide, breathing shallow. "You named it," she whispered. I couldn't answer. My mouth was dry. My heart hammered, because I remembered the moment in the flooded chamber when I'd fired, when I'd yelled without thinking, when my panic needed something human to throw at a monster. I'd yell my brother's nickname, not my own, and the creature had repeated it through water and pressure like it was tasting the syllables. My skin broke out in goose flesh. My arm burned. The cuts throbbed in time with a faint pinging I could now hear in the motel pipes, in the radiator, in the hum of the cheap fridge. Ping, ping. Maria pressed her hand to her side and hissed, pain flashing. "It's in us," she whispered. I stared at the blood seeping through the bandage and felt sick. "Infection," I muttered. "We need antibiotics." Maria shook her head slowly. "Not infection," she whispered. "Not bacteria." She closed her eyes briefly, like she was listening inward. Then she opened them, and what I saw there made me want to crawl out of my own skin. Recognition. "It left something," she said. "In the cuts. In the blood." My throat tightened. "What?" I demanded. Maria swallowed hard. "A signal," she whispered. "A piece of its pattern." I stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Maria shook her head, frustrated. "Clark," she snapped, sudden anger despite the pain. "You work around machines that talk through water. Sonar, hydrophones, acoustic arrays. You know sound travels better in the ocean than anywhere. You know you can ride a signal for miles. You know," she coughed, winced, then continued, "you know if something wanted to tag you, it would use what it knows." Pinging echoed from the motel's sink drain, faint but there. Ping, ping. Maria's eyes flicked to it. Mine did too. The drain gurgled. A slow bubble rose and popped, releasing a stink of brine so strong it made my eyes water. "This room," Maria whispered, voice trembling. "It's not even near the water." It was though. Kodiak's a harbor town. Everything is near the water. The pipes carry it. The air carries it. The damp carpet carries it. That's the problem with the ocean. It doesn't stay outside. I stumbled to the bathroom and yanked the sink faucet on, full blast like running water would drown out the sound in my skull. Cold water gushed, and the drain swallowed it with a steady slurp. For a second, as the basin filled and emptied, I saw something in the water's surface. Not my reflection. A pale face under black water, looking up. I jerked back so hard I slammed into the doorframe. My heart punched my ribs. Maria called from the bed, voice strained. "Clark," she said, "don't look. Shut up." I barked, but my voice wavered. The water in the sink kept running. The drain gurgled. Ping, ping. Top. A light tap from inside the pipe, like someone knocking on the underside of the basin. I froze. Top. Again. I shut the faucet off so hard it squealed. The silence that followed felt like pressure. Maria's breathing was shallow, painful. "It's not here," she whispered, like she was trying to convince herself. "It can't be here." I stared at the sink, at the drain hole, black and small. "How far can it follow?" I whispered. Maria's eyes glistened. "How far does water go?" she whispered back. I didn't sleep. Not really. I sat in a chair by the window with my gun in my lap like an idiot, watching the harbor lights. Every time a car passed outside, the headlights made the wet pavement shine like moving water. Maria drifted in and out, feverish. Sometimes she murmured in Swiss German. Sometimes she whispered numbers like she was counting pings. At one point, close to dawn, she opened her eyes and looked straight at me. "It doesn't want to kill us," she whispered. I laughed, harsh and bitter. "It already tried," I said. Maria shook her head slowly. "It could have," she said. "It didn't. It marked us. It wants us to carry it." "Carry it where?" I demanded. Maria swallowed. "To him," she whispered. My blood ran cold. The company and my brother didn't just build a monster. They built a delivery system. A thing that lives in water, learns signals, and uses blood like a tag. I thought of the dead diver, scraped clean. Extraction failed due to great interference. Not a kill, a sample, a retrieval. And now it knew my name. Maria's name. It had our blood. Around 7 in the morning, my phone buzzed again, normal network this time. A local number. Whitfield. I stared at the screen until it stopped. Then it rang again. I answered, voice raw. "What?" I snapped. Whitfield's voice came through, thin and shaking. "It's gone," he whispered. My stomach clenched. "What's gone?" I demanded. "The body," he said. "The diver. It's not in the intake anymore." Cold washed through me. "Did you move it?" I hissed. "No, Whitfield whispered. Jesus Christ. No." I went down at first light to check because your people never showed, and he swallowed audibly, and the grates bent, like something pulled it open. And there's nothing there. Maria's eyes snapped open at the sound of Whitfield's voice. She pushed herself upright with a grimace, clutching her side. "What else?" I demanded. Whitfield's breathing hitched. "There's a trail," he whispered, "up onto the lower deck. Vet, like drag marks, like something hauled, something heavy, toward the hatch." My mouth went dry. "Toward the station," I whispered. Whitfield made a strangled sound. "And the hatch is open," he rasped. "It's open and there's knocking, Clark. Not from below, from inside the module. Like it's up here now." Maria whispered. "No." I stared at the motel wall, heartbeat pounding. "Close it," I barked. "Seal it. Weld it. Whatever." Whitfield laughed, short and hysterical. "You think we didn't try?" he snapped. "My deckhands won't go near it. My father's praying. My mother's packing. In your agency," his voice broke. "Your agency won't answer. Nobody's answering. What the fuck did you bring here?" I clenched my jaw until it hurt. "I didn't bring anything," I said, and the lie tasted like bile. Whitfield whispered. It said a name. My blood turned to ice. "What?" I breathed. It made a sound, Whitfield whispered. Not like an animal, like a person trying to talk with water in its throat. It said, he swallowed. It said, "Clark." Maria's hand clamped over her mouth, eyes wide. Whitfield whispered, "It wants you." The line went dead. I sat there, frozen, the motel air suddenly too wet, too cold. Maria stared at me. "We can't go back," she whispered. "I know," I said, voice shaking. Maria's eyes flicked to my device. "Your brother wants you to go back," she said. "He stared here. You want me to shut up?" I said. He wants me to obey. Maria's jaw tightened. Then don't, she whispered. That was it. That was the moment the dam cracked inside me. I've spent years swallowing my anger, filing it away like evidence, letting my brother win because winning looked clean and losing looked messy. But I'm tired of clean. I'm tired of being owned. So I opened the laptop and started typing. Not the report the company wanted. Not the sanitized incident log. This, the truth, as far as my shaking hands can tell it. Maria tried to get up and stop me twice. She was weak but stubborn. You'll die, she rasped, and her voice broke on the word. Then I die, I said. She grabbed my wrist, eyes fierce. Clark, she whispered, if you post it, they'll come for you. I leaned closer so she could hear me over the ocean hum in the pipes. They already did, I whispered. Maria's eyes softened for a second, and she looked so young it hurt. Then she nodded once, slow. Then write it, she whispered. Write it all. So here's the part one haven't said yet, the part that makes my stomach twist and my mouth go bitter. My brother didn't just work for the agency. He built the part of it that scares the government. He's not an investigator. He's not a cleaner. He's the man they call when they want something to stop being nature and start being tool. When we were kids on the Maine coast, he used to take a stone and drop it into a tide pool just to watch everything scatter. He'd smile like a god. I'd yell at him and he'd laugh and do it again. He never stopped being that kid. He just got better toys. The listening station under Whitfield's platform was never decommissioned. It was repurposed. The company used it to run acoustic experiments out of sight because water is the best hiding place on Earth. You can bury anything in depth and call it research. They needed subjects that could move through cold, dark water and bring back data. Not drones. Drones get tangled, get found, get filmed. Animals are invisible until they aren't. So they made one. Not with magic. With surgery, with conditioning, with signals piped into its skull until it learned what a ping meant and what a knock meant and what a name meant. And then, because my brother is a cruel genius, they gave it something else. They gave it curiosity. They let it learn off script. They let it become hungry. And now it's loose. Not just around Whitfield's platform. Not just in that cove. In the water. In the pipes. In the places you don't think about until you can hear a tap from the other side of a drain. Maria just shifted in her sleep while I typed that last line. She whimpered, clutching her side. The bandage is soaked again. Her skin is hot. Fever hot. She's not breathing right. Her eyes flutter beneath her lids like she's dreaming of deep water. My arm burns like it's full of ants. The cuts are swollen, edges pale like the skin is trying to reject itself. When I flex my fingers, I feel a faint vibration up the bones like a tiny echo. Ping ping. I can hear it even now, faint, under everything. And here's the worst part. It's not coming from outside. It's coming from me. I don't know if the creature followed us to Kodiak or if it doesn't need to. I don't know if it's in the harbor, waiting, or if it's already moved on to wherever my brother is next, carrying whatever it harvested from that diver, from Maria, from me. But I know this. When I close my eyes, I see black water with a pale face under it, staring up, patient. I see the hand on the ledge, claws scoring steel. I hear my name in a wet throat, and I know my brother is going to try to delete this. He has people for that. Bots, lawyers, friends, little wolves on social media who bark on command. But he doesn't understand one thing, not really. You can't delete water. It gets into everything. Under doors, through cracks, into lungs, into blood. It soaks. It waits. If you're reading this, maybe it already made it past him. Maybe it got out before they could drown in paperwork. Maybe it's in your town's water tower, your marina, your basement sump pump, your bathtub drain. Maybe you're going to hear a tap one night and tell yourself it's just pipes. Maybe you'll be right. Or maybe you'll hear it answer back, faint and eager, like it's been waiting to be called. Ping ping. Talp. Talp. Maria just opened her eyes. Not fully, just enough to look at me. Her pupils are too wide. Her gaze slides past my face like she's looking at something behind me. And she smiles. Not her normal smile. Not sweet. Something else. Something hungry. "Clark," she whispers, voice wet and wrong, like she's speaking through water. He's listening. I turn slow, toward the bathroom, toward the sink I shut off hours ago. The drain gurgles. A bubble rises. And from inside the pipe, from deep in the motel's guts, something knocks back.